Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome into today's cataloging webinar. My name is Rhiannon Williams, and I'm joined by Kim Mumbauer. We're both here on the product management team here at TLC, and our focus on cataloging, workflows, items, metadata, all of that fun stuff. So very excited to be chatting with you all today. We're continuing in a sort of like intro overview series on today's session is specifically about the item editor. We'll do an overview, talk about all the different fields available in the item editor, um, how those are used, where they show up in different areas across the software, and then how you can use them and some different settings available with it. And we'll do this both in LS2 cataloging, and then I'll briefly touch on the item editor and some of those options available within LS2 staff as well, since we've got it available in two places. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. And I want to share my whole window. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna start here in LS2 cataloging. So here in LS2 cataloging, I am in a item space. So I've gone ahead and already added a existing item to this item space so I can use it as a display, and then also we can talk through the item editor as we create a new item on this particular title. So we've got when we are adding a new item, I'm going to go into our title here, and we can look here at the item grid. So this shows like all of the different items that are already existing on this particular title, and it gives us some information about the item itself, but there's even more information when we select that barcode and we come in here to our item editor. And I'll talk through an overview of an existing one, and then we can chat through as we create a new item on this particular title. So here in the item editor, or an edit item in the breadcrumbs up here, we see at the top here, we have some title overview information, which is really helpful for if you're, making changes to an item or adding a new item, and you want to be able to pull in some of that information from the title itself. And you can also check and make sure that you are adding the right barcode for the right one if you see the cover image up here as well. And then we have some of the item specific information. So when we have an existing item that has a barcode associated with it, that's what will show up here in the item ID. And we have options for, you can either scan in a barcode, type in a barcode here, copy paste from somewhere, or you can also generate a barcode using those system generated barcodes, and those are set up in LS2 preferences. And so that's that. And then we also have circulation status. So I want to show what this looks like when we create a new item, so we will be able to see all of the options. And so here in the item editor, when we're adding a new item, I can, as I said, like type in or scan a barcode, or I can use generate barcode. And this, this internal testing environment, this demo environment, we have it set up where LS is the prefix. So you may have a different prefix in there depending on what's set up in your system. And then, so it will assign the next sequential barcode number in here, which I can then use to print labels. And then I have the option for choosing a circulation status. So here in LS2 cataloging, we have two different available statuses. You have available, meaning that they are, once this item is added, it is shelf ready, ready to go out to be circulated. And choosing in processing means that this item will need to be checked in LS2 staff up at a circulation desk before then going out onto the shelf. This can give you a nice buffer, especially if you're cataloging a lot of items and you may be taking out like carts all at once, and there may be like a delay between when items are added and then when the item actually goes out on the shelf. So we've got two different options depending on your workflow and what makes most sense for the particular item that you're cataloging. And then next we have location information. And we've got two different kinds of location information here. We have owning and then as well as active circulation, location, and collection. So we have our owning location, which is who ultimately like owns this particular item. And it may be the same owning location, um, like the actual branch may be the same if you have different circulating information, or you may have different ones. Specifically, if say you have, um, you know, textbooks or something like that at a school environment that are owned by the central library, but then they are going to be actually like moved to a particular school and then they may come back. So you may have different circulating information to have an active uh, different branch or a different school location. Or often what happens is if you have a, let me find a one here. So we've got, have a owning location. I have this the grant branch libraries location, and then I also have, maybe pick the one. There we go. So we've got children's easy books. So I know I want this to be the ultimate place that it ends up, but I may have where at this particular location, we want it to be, on display or something. I don't know that I have display set up in here, but temporary. So we have a different collection that this item is going to go to so that we know where this needs to be shelved. And then you can also choose that when you're checking it in, whether that circulating information gets resolved to go back to the owning location and owning collection, or you continue with your circulating active location and collection. So there's some different options here depending on the nature of the item and how your library handles, new materials and things like that. And then additionally, we have shelf location and price, year, volume, and copy. So from this section here, as far as barcode, owning location, circulating location, and then shelf location, and this section here, all of those are different metadata fields that are available to be printed on spine labels or on barcodes when you print those shelf labels and barcodes from LS2 cataloging. And those labels are all set up within LS2 preferences in the label editor. So all of these different fields here are available for choosing on what, may in particular go into a spine label. So shelf location is something that is, this may be also like that call number or, what is on the actual spine label. So you have, different options you can use, non-standard ones if you may use like easy. So this would be sort of how my previous library would do it. They'd have easy and then like 3 letters of the last name of the author. Or it could also be a Dewey Decimal Number, or it could be an LC classification and a cutter. This is a free text field and you have many different options. I do want to show, I'm going to go ahead and save this really quick and we'll make a change to the title and show kind of what that looks like when you can get suggestions for this. So, and I can come down here to classification. And so here in my title, I don't have any classification information, but I can add it when I was cataloging this title. If you say, this is typically how it would be done, and I can add a Dewey information here or add Library of Congress. And I'll just add this for now. And I'll go ahead and save this. I'm going to save to a title. Oh, yep, it's already in a tiled space. So I'm going to come back to my item editor here and come back to my item. And so now I have the shelf location I've already added in here, but I do have suggested suggested shelf locations, and they are differentiated by those different fields. So the shelf location that's listed in the title record is listed as the local option. And then you've got Dewey Decimal, and then LC, and then Library and Archives Canada. It can also be listed here. So those are whatever's put in the title record can be then prompt the cataloger when they're creating items here in the item editor. So if you have standardized ways of doing shelf location across, multiple branches, and you have, it's very standardized, you know exactly how this item would be shelved. Placing that in the title record can be very helpful, especially if you have other staff members creating item records who may not be the cataloger. So giving those suggestions can be very helpful, and it can also just speed up the process when you're creating items here in LS2 Cataloging. So next, we have all of those other item metadata fields. We have our price, year, volume, and copy. So price, you can put your pricing information for your particular item. And this does affect when you are doing fines or when you're replacing items. So when you are charging fines, the price listed for the item is going to factor into the charge in addition to whatever your set, damaged item or replacing item fee set in the system level is going to be. And additionally, you can also add year information, and then we have volume and copy number information that can be added. These are all, they're all non-required fields. They're optional if you want to add this information if it's helpful. Again, like I said, these are all available to be put onto those spine labels or on barcode labels. So they can be very helpful if, for instance, with particular unique items like graphic novels, where you may have, your general designation of, let's say, for instance, this is a graphic novel of like Dragon Ball or something. You may have Dragon Ball Z, but this is a particular, a volume. So this is volume 1, copy 3, and I'm making, multiple copies of this particular um, item that I have. And so all of this can be included in that shelf location in LS2 Pack for your patrons or your students to see. And this can also be included on that spine label together. So being able to separate out this information can be very helpful so that it's easier to see exactly, what the volume and copy info is rather than in one giant free text field of the shelf location, but they all display together as that shelf location in LS2 Pack and, in LS2 Kids as well. So go back to our suggestion here. I'll choose the suggested local shelf location, and I can go ahead, and this is a year can be kind of a interesting one depending on um, your institution and where you're cataloging and how they do it. Sometimes you may want year to be the year that the item was acquisition, the year you purchased it, or maybe the year that the item was actually published. In my previous library, we always did the year that the item was published, not so much the year that we purchased it. So now I'd put 1999 there for when this particular version of Frog and Toad was published, but you may, if this was a new copy of a replacement, you may want to put in 2025 if it was purchased for this year. So you've got kind of different options depending on your cataloging standards and things like that. The next section here is sort of a section of notes, and there are a variety of notes that display here in LS2 cataloging, notes that display in LS2 staff, and then there's some options on when they display. So here in physical condition, it's an open text field, and you can add any physical condition information, and there is this little checkbox to have it show at a check-in or check-out. So these physical condition notes are helpful if, say, this book, for instance, I may say that it has that it came in from the publisher and it was like slightly damaged on a corner or something. Not enough that we would want to send the book back, but enough to note that, this is existing. If it comes back and this damage is already on there, it's not something to charge a patron for. So to, okay, slight damage to say like the top right corner of the cover. And then, I might, depending on your standards or your how your institution or your school or library does it, you may want to have different things. I always did my initial and maybe put like a date in there too. So today is the 12th. So that would be sort of how I would put in like that physical condition note. And I may want to put to show at check-in and checkout just as a heads up, like, hey, this is fine. That's not a big deal. So this will display if we check in or check out this item. And then we also have here a public note and a non-public note. So this public note, I would love for Kim to give me some more info on this one because I was trying to see if this is one that can display in LS2 Pack and I wasn't able to see that. Is this something that displays here in LS2 cataloging?
Not yet.
Gotcha.
That was the intention when they designed LS2 cataloging at first, but the development has not yet occurred to make the public note display in LS2 Pack and LS2 Staff, or the non-public note too, for that matter. Public note was thought to be like a donation note because its donations are item specific, but at any rate, development has not yet occurred. And I think there's an idea. I'll try to find the idea and put a link in chat. I think there's an idea asking for that development to make it visible in Pack and Staff for both of those. Non-public note, of course, would be in Staff only, not Pack, but
Right. Gotcha.
Check-in, check-out note, that works great. Physical condition
Yeah.
note, that works like it's supposed to, but the other two are not yet. So,
Right. Gotcha. Thanks, Kim. That's exactly what I was thinking, but I just wanted to double check on that. So yeah, we do have these two note fields. They do display here, in LS2 cataloging. So those are, here. And this, so those are here in LS2 cataloging for now. And then hopefully we'll be able to, if you guys, upload that idea, we'll be able to push it up in the development priorities for them to show in LS2 Staff and LS2 Pack. But again, we also have this check-in, check-out note. These are helpful for, for instance, say this was like an audiobook or something that has like 3 discs. I want to say, put in a check-in, check-out note to check for 3 discs, and then this will display whenever a staff member checks it in or checks it out, and in LS2 Staff. So got some options there for how those display, and I'll kind of show what that may look like. And then following, we have more information that's available in LS2 Staff, and these are more like statistics, internal metadata that can be helpful for reporting or for auditing and things like that, to be able to have more information about a particular item that you can use for different reports and things you may need from your administration. So we have these parts 1 through 4, and these are used for any part numbers, supplements, or any other appropriate like item or piece descriptions if you have multiple parts to a particular item. And we have little tooltip info that pop up here that they map to particular subfields in the item field in the MARC record. And so you have different options here for putting in that information, and different institutions use these differently. You may put, especially if you're migrating from another ILS, you may have used these in the past for things like acquisition information and the fund that was used, and or the fiscal year that it was purchased in, different information particular to when this item, why it was purchased, why it was added to the collection, things like that. Could also use it for different information about if you were purchasing books that meet a particular curriculum need. Putting in that information in here can be helpful. And then additionally down here, these are labeled in here, but these are these are the user-defined fields. So here we have 4 of them configured in this particular environment, and these are often the ones that a lot of our public or school libraries may use. But there are 5 different user-defined fields that can be set up, and they're set up in LS2 preferences. And so you can designate exactly how this field displays, like what the title of it is. So we have our donation note, funding source, and staff note all in here. And these again are all just like big free text fields, and they've got the expandable text boxes like we have all across LS2 cataloging. And so these all are, information that can be included in item records and then display in LS2 staff as well. So um, may put in here donated by friends. Let's say it was donated today. And then, maybe I want to put in a staff note here of, maybe I want to put in a staff note or we'll put in here, gift, something like that. So have some information in here. So there's, as I said, there are 5 of them that are set up, and these are set up during your typically during the implementation of the migration to library.solution or library.solution for schools. So these can be changed with contacting our support and talking with them to figure out how these different fields can meet your needs. So there are some options here on how you can have these display, and they're kind of just used for whatever kinds of information you want to have in there. So I am going to go ahead and save my new item. So I did have this set to in processing. So that's my circulation status for this item. So I won't be able to check it out or change any of this, change the status or anything from here in LS2 cataloging since it is in processing. But this gives me a great chance to copy over my barcode and hop over to LS2 staff to see what it looks like here. And then I'll also show you what like duplication and then the serial item editor looks like. So here, yeah, I've already pulled up that title, but I'll show you what our new item looks like. So here we have our new item that was created with our temporary, or not temporary, but our generated barcode, and then the shelf location for this item. And then we also have a holdings code. This was, we put it in the temporary one, and this does show the actual circulated active collection that's here. But it also shows you like the owning branch and the owning location or the holdings code as well. So we have some options here. We do have, as I said, we've got like our check-in, checkout note that displays down here. So you see that in the item overview, the item details, but you also see that when you check that in. I'll show that in a moment. And then physical condition note shows down here, comment, and then there is also a particular field, the accession number that's available only here within LS2 staff. So you can add any, if you have particular information related to this item when it was purchased, or anything that differentiates this particular item from another one that you may need to put in there for accession. So there is a spot for that in LS2 staff. And then also down here, we've got our parts and subdivisions section, and then they're listed by the different subfields that they go in, and then those user-defined fields that I mentioned. So we've got source, and I've got my note in there, and then also donation note as well. And like I said, there are 5 of these available, and I only have 4 of them configured, so I've got 4 that display here. So I do want to show what it looks like checking this one in, and then I'll show you what it looks like the title editor the item editor here in LS2 staff. So I'm going to go in here to borrower services, go ahead and check in our new item. And so here it's going to give me my pop-up of our damage note that was I set to check in, check out as well as the check-in, check-out circulation note as well. So now both of those display, and it gives me the options to say, yep, that's good. I want it to. It's checked in, and because I'm logged into the Adams location, it's going to put it in transit to another. I said, okay, sounds good. That's exactly what I want, and it's going to be put in transit. So the come in here to our title, and then I'm getting the item information again, but I want to show you what it looks like to add a new item from LS2 staff. So from here, we have, again, the very same fields that are available, except for the additional accession number field that's available here. And then here within LS2 staff, you also only have available the option to like scan in, type, or copy paste a barcode in that item ID field. There isn't that generate option. So if that's something that you are using often, using the item editor and item creation within LS2 cataloging can be quite helpful. And then again, these are also still the same, owning and circulation information here. The shelf location, we don't get any of those prompts for that shelf location information here in LS2 staff. So it's just whatever is can be added. So we do get the shelf location of like the previously added one. It is pulling in some of that information from the previous one. So it's got that same circulating information as the previous item, the shelf location, and some of those user-defined fields are already added in, but the check-in, check-out note, and physical condition are not copied over since those are related to a very specific particular item. And so that is sort of an overview in the item editor here in LS2 staff. And again, you do have options to save and add another. So you can quickly go through if you're adding multiple items here in LS2 staff, you can do that here, or you could save and close. And there's a very similar workflow available here in LS2 cataloging. So we do have the option of this particular item. I'll go ahead and refresh my page so it'll give me my new item status of in transit. The internet has been a little bit slow today, so hopefully it won't take too long to reload my page. I hope. There we go. Yep, so now we see that it is in transit. And we do have in our more action setting here in our item grid, I do have the option to duplicate, which can be very helpful for especially if you're adding many different items for different locations. If you're adding, lots of different items on the same title, can be very, very helpful if you are, central cataloging, for example. So if, we ordered, 4 different copies of this book, and I want these actually to all be available, and I can have them generate barcodes automatically. Or if these are, pre-processed books ready to go out on shelf that have barcodes already placed on them from the vendor, then I can go ahead and scan them in with my barcode scanner here, and then just change the location information for each one. So I want to generate these automatically, and then I'm going to go ahead and choose that I have some different items. Say I want to put one there. I'm going to central. Add one here at let's see. Use some of these ones. There we go. Don't think I've got easy on this one. Juvenile fiction. And then we'll also choose another one. There we go. Children's easy books. So now I'm creating 4 items at 4 different locations, at 4 different collections. They'll all have this circulation status available. If this is very helpful if you are adding multiple copies for one location and they're all going to go out on the shelves there, or in processing might be helpful if you are centrally cataloging so that these can then go be checked in at an LS2 staff from your workstation, and then they, this in transit notices get to go out. So that status changes, and then you could do slips and things so that they can go to the appropriate branches. And so I'm going to have go ahead and do in processing for these and choose that. And you do also have an option. You can add these 4 items, and then you can also print as well. So I'm going to go in here and do that. You say if I created these and I want to print a label, so I can add it to the print queue for the barcode or the spine label, and also barcode as well. So I can choose to print barcodes now, or I can add them to the queue to configure them and make sure that they're all there later. So you have options for that. So I want to add both of these to the queue. So now they've both been added to our barcode queue and our label queue. So now I've got 4 barcodes. They're going to be ready to print. And you can see that they all show up down here with our different generated barcodes. And then also same here with our labels. And then, like I mentioned, these spine label or, label barcode setups are all handled within LS2 preferences. And then you have options for the different metadata fields that show up in these different ones. So for instance, this one, it only has configured shelf location. So that is the only thing that shows up. And then we've got 4 labels that will show up just like that. So that is a very brief look at the general like monograph item editor in LS2 staff and in LS2 cataloging. Now the serial item editor is a little bit different, and I do want to go ahead and pull in a title for that. So I'm going to search for classic Vogue. We'll do teen Vogue this time. And so it's a non-serial item. Let me see. And it's in processing. Let's find one that does not have a non-serial item on it. Let's add a advanced search it. Do it by format, and I want magazine. Let's do business week. There we go. No items on there. See what's configured. Yep, we've got a subscription already configured. So once that's configured, we then come in here to our item editor. And the serial item editor does look quite a bit different. There's a lot more information in here as far as the more item specific info, and also in chronology and enumeration, depending on what you have configured for um, um, your subscription setup. So here in the item editor, again, we also still see the title information up at the top. And then we also have a type selection. So we have our basic, which will be just, all of your basic magazines, things like that. But you also have options for if there are special types of items that come in, like indexes or supplements. So I'll just keep it here as a basic. And we do still have the option to generate barcodes here for serial items. And then we also have a special designation here in circulation status of available and in processing, like our non-serial items, and then also expected. So this is a way for catalogers to create future issues of a particular serial that they expect to have come in. So say, for instance, that this is going to be, next month's copy. I expect that this will come in, say, say I expect it to be in by September 30th. That's usually when we get those in for the next month. So I can have my date expected and the circulation status of expected here. And then I can also choose, again, our owning and location and collection information. So I do want this to be at our Inwood branch and in the magazine collection. And then we do also down here have our chronology and enumeration information available. And this is going to be configured and displayed depending on what your serial subscription pattern is set up as. This is set up as weekly, And so we've got different options here. So I know that this one, I expect that this one is going to be October. Um, I want this is the October 1st and for 2025. And I can choose here since it's set as weekly, I can have it display as October 1st through 7th. And then I can also choose to have add in particular numbering for this issue as well. And agreed, you can also have, in addition, you can have, a double or a triple issue as well if they're, for multiple, if a particular item is going to be for, multiple weeks than it typically would. So you have some options here and how those display. So if this one, typically is going to be a weekly, but for this particular month, they're doing a double issue, then it can come in, or even a triple issue, and you can choose how that displays, how that chronology displays here. I'm gonna have it just as a single issue and display as the 1st through the 7th. And then we also have the same sort of item information down here as we did with the monograph items. So we've got, or the non-serial items, so we've got our suggestions. So we've got a Library of Congress, or we have a Dewey. And so when you select one of these, it will clear out what's in this field once you select it. Or, I may want to set up, um, have something like this, or say, just magazine or something like that. Especially if these are maybe not like circulating items, if they're the brand new ones. And then you can also have the same fields down here for price, and then public, non-public, and check-in and check-out note. There isn't a like condition note available here in serials, but check-in, check-out note can also work very well for that. And then we also have those different part fields that map to the different subfields that I mentioned earlier, as well as those user-defined fields. Those also display here in Serial Item Editor. So that's all the different fields available, and I'll show what this looks like here. So we do have a couple of options when we go to save. Just like we did in LS2 staff, you have options to save and close. You could save and add another. So it's just going to basically add another version of, kind of copy and add another item editor here. And so it'll copy over some of the same information, but let me change some as well. Or I can also do save and add a subscription item. So this is the subscription item editor. And so this is sort of this like item editor, like grid view that will create multiple items. It's very similar to the duplicate item editor within LS2 cataloging for a monograph item. And so you could choose where you want to add this particular items to. So I have, got permissions to add those for this location. And I can choose which existing items I want to have it added after. So if you have, multiple issues in here, multiple items already created, you want to add them after a certain one, then you could choose which particular item you want to add these subscription items after. And then you choose how many items you want to create. So I want to create another 4 items. And I can also list whether there are multiple subscriptions for this title. So if we get in, 2 copies of Business Week for every week, so that we have 2 copies available for our patrons to view within the library. So I've got, it basically like duplicates it. So I've got 2 different ones. Again, this is only for one single location. So it's a little bit different than the non-serial items where you can choose different locations and different collections for when you're adding these. These are for one particular location, and if you have multiple subscriptions and you get multiple copies of a particular title, then you can have those added here. And again, we have the options for choosing available, in processing, or expected. So this is the way that you create those, grids of expected items for future editions or future issues. I apologize for hearing my dog barking in the background. Going a little crazy this morning. And then we also have the next item expected date. So from here, it chose, I chose that the 30th is when the next issue is supposed to come in for the October 1st through the 7th. And then it will, since this is a weekly subscription, it will auto suggest that, 1 week later on the 7th is when the next one will come in. So it chose that one there, and then it will choose a subsequent week after that, depending on your um, subscription setup. So it will go ahead and auto-populate those expected dates down here, which is very helpful. Then apologies for the crazy dogs. And then also down here for barcodes, you have options. So you can have none. So if you don't have any barcodes, for these particular expected issues, you want to, do the barcoding and things like that when those come in, or if you don't barcode and don't circulate your magazines, choosing none can be helpful. Or you can choose input manually if you know exactly what these barcodes are going to be for these items, or you can have them generate automatically and then have them printed as well. So I'll generate these automatically. And so now it will create 2 copies for each day, for each weekly issue. And they'll all have the same chronology display as the one we added previously. So, and then this is kind of unique for the monthly or the weekly setup. And since I had it set up where it sets a day, a month and a day, since it overlaps into the next month, it puts month and day, and then also a year as well. So we have a sort of a unique setup here, and you can see sort of the intricacies and the little details that happen within showing up in items. So I'm going to go ahead and save this now. And so now we have a grid here of physical items of both the individual expected serial item that I created here, and then also all of these that we created using that add serial item sort of grid item creator as well. So we have lots of items that we created in sort of in mass, and we're able to add multiple subscriptions and options for them, or items of them. So it's a very powerful tool. If you have subscription patterns already set up and you use those, then this is a great option for adding many items, either whether they're expected or available. So it's a very cool tool. So I'm going to pop into the chat and see if we've got any questions so far. See, I've got a question here from Sarah. Could any of these fields, like the physical condition field, be pulled up on a report? Say a report that lists all the physical condition fields that have data in them. Let's pop over to LS2 reports. And
Rhiannon and I also put a note down just below.
perfect.
But go ahead and show where it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I found one that has for check-in, check-out note, and I suggested the 949 system title with field numbers, but it's not really helpful for sorting purposes. But you go ahead and show them.
Yeah,
so they can
I'll
see.
go ahead and show this the check-in, check-out notes one. So
I thought you could ask for a custom report.
yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, or if you have report authoring to be able to kind of build one with that. So we do have items with check-in, check-out notes. This is one of the pre-built reports that comes with LS2 reports, and you do have options for selecting, your owning location, and then you could select your particular holdings codes. I want this one, and I'll select all of those, and then it will show me the owning holdings code, the shelf location, title and item info, and then the status, and then the the actual text of that check-in, check-out note is here as well. So you have so this is an example of how that would look, I could see if you have report authoring to be able to edit this particular report to change that it's not a check-in, check-out note and choose it to be the condition note. So that's sort of an option. Um, yeah, Sarah, I totally agree. I could see it as being a very helpful report. I will definitely relay that to Faith, who is our product manager for reports, and let her know that that's something that is that would be requested because I could definitely see that being helpful to know which areas in your collection have are pretty battered and you may want to replace them or things like that. So yeah, yeah, and an item details report. Let's
Yeah,
check out that one.
I didn't check that one. Thank you,
Yeah,
Debbie.
item. Yes, thank you. Yeah, item details by holdings code is the another option for a um, report here. So I'll choose that same location. You do have an option to change your sort based whether or not it's a title or by the shelf location. I'll choose title. And then this is giving me all of these different ones. So I will select all of them, but hopefully this won't take too long to run. There we go. So you get options of these items that will give, the title and item information and then shelf. And it does give the condition as well. So this one has condition for, cases damaged and then also check in, check out and those parts and accession number. And this is another one of those great reports from Faith that have those view and LS2 cataloging links. So say if I want to go ahead, click that. Again, my internet's a little bit slow. I may just be LS2 cataloging today. This particular build I have going on might be a little bit slow. Um, but it does have those direct links to that item in or the title in LS2 cataloging, which is very helpful. Let's see here. Yep. So it went to this title and you're able to see our item here as well. So that's very helpful. That's a great report. Thanks for highlighting that one, Debbie. Could be very helpful for that same purpose. Let's see. Rebecca also said, are you able to show any examples of what people might put in those parts and how it would be used in reports? So, different, I don't think I have an exact example of how different libraries use these part subdivisions. If anybody in the chat, if your library is using those currently for, different metadata related to items, be it acquisitions or something like that. If you have any examples, we'd love to hear about it. A lot of the times, different ILS or library management systems may have used these in the past for putting information, and so these are just kind of like mapping a lot of those. So that may be how this was used previously. So got a couple of different either they're just like the user defined fields, they're really wide open on what you want to put in there. But just like with the condition, the check in, check out note, those display here in this particular report, and then you could always do other authored reports or ask for a custom report to put in those. Ah, okay. Debbie says that they briefly catalog equipment and put model serial number there. That's very helpful. Yeah. That's a great use of that to put in some specific information about some of those like unique items. That definitely is a good use of them for sure.
Rhiannon, I just wanted to mention that the way library.solution works, if you if you put information in part two, part three, or part four, but do not put
Mm-hmm.
any data in part one, you won't see that display. It will not display an
Yeah,
LS2 staff or LS2 pack. You have to have, and that may be good. If you don't want it to display in LS2 pack or LS2
yeah,
staff, then that's good. It's only visible in LS2 cataloging.
right.
Might be visible in LS2 staff. Can't recall, but no, I'm sure LS2 staff won't display that part data unless you have something in data in part one, just to be aware.
Yeah, thanks for
Um,
highlighting that, Kim. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a detail I forgot to mention, but yeah, that is
yeah,
something that, If you
The
want them
quirk.
to display, yeah, it is a little quirk. So if you want it to display, putting something in J is essential for having it display properly. All right, let's see next here. We have a question here in the Q&A from Mary saying, can you show what the item grid would look like if you included year, volume, and copy? For sure, I can totally do that. So let me hop back into LS2 cataloging to show what that looks like. Let me see, I'll pop into this title and add um, this one. Oh, the item grid. Oh, of adding serial items. I can totally do that. Back to our other title. Search for our Business Week magazine again and show kind of what that, oh, this is a different one. So make sure subscription, yeah, that's all good. So I'll go ahead and add a serial item. Just choose today. Choose. Go. Let's see. Oh, sorry. It was not serial item. It was a non-serial item. I'm a little confused. My bad. So I'll show you what that looks like if you're adding, duplicating with that stuff that's already in there. So let me choose this. So we've got this location. Let me see. Children, easy books. We got, so if I've got, let's add in, say this is $10. And we'll put the year it was published. This is, for instance, volume 1 and copy number 1. If I want to save, and that is this item. And if I want to go ahead and duplicate it, and I want to put it as available, generate automatically, and I want to add multiple ones. So this is sort of what that grid looks like from here. And I could go ahead and add those. And when I come into my item editor, so this is using the duplicate feature, it does duplicate it. So it's going to create those that all have the same price, year, volume, and copy number. So that's something to note, is that it's not increasing that copy number or the volume number. So that may be something that if you're using duplicate, you may want to come in, pop in each one, change your copy number. So that's something to note, but it's helpful for, duplicating price, year, and volume if they're all the same. So that is just a little quirk for that. Yeah, they all got the same copy information there. So yeah, I think that is our last question that I could see here. Let's see. I see Debbie in the chat said that we also have user-defined fields of binding, vendor, invoice number, and a cataloger note if the item is replaced by the vendor. That's great information, Debbie. That's very helpful. That's another great use of using those user-defined fields of different item-specific information. Having one for vendor, I think, could be very helpful. Especially depending on, if you want to be able to pull reports and look at, items that are coming from a particular vendor or something like that. And putting invoice information in there could definitely be helpful. Yeah. Not utilized reports yet. Show how to export them into Excel document. For sure, I could totally show that very quickly. So here in LS2 reports, we've already ran this item details by holdings code. And so once it's run, a lot of these are going to run as an HTML format automatically, so that they display here on the web page. But when you select HTML from the this header bar up here, You do get the options to run it as a PDF, Excel, Excel data, CSV, and XML. So we can run that as Excel here, and then you'll be ready, and then it will run it and download it to your PC, and then it'll be ready to open in Excel. Or I'm on a Mac, so it wants to open it in Sheets. But yeah, so we get there are multiple different options for how you want to be able to download um, reports. So you've got a couple of different options there, depending on what is most helpful. Yeah, you're welcome, Diane. All right. That is all I've got here. We have another message here. I'll go ahead and stop my share quickly. A message here, converted from RFID. New metallic covers we couldn't replace or fix to make the RFID tags work. Flag those titles metallic cover and added stickers to the items so staff could see they need to scan the barcode. Ah, okay. That's a great um that is a great note. That's one of those fun little quirks of unique items and using new technology and stuff. It's one of those things that just wouldn't occur to me normally until you are actually in the library trying to use those RFID scanners with those unique items. So that's a great point, Jenna. And that would be a great use for, a check-in, check-out note or something like that. To be able to flag a staff member like, hey, you gotta do something, or using those stickers, depending on like both digital flagging of items and then like actually physically signifying that they are sort of a special case. So very cool, Jenna. Thanks for sharing that. All right. It looks like we are about at time here. So I want to go ahead and tell you all, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for joining Kim and myself on this cataloging webinar. We do have another Q&A session in 2 weeks, which is on the 26th. So September 26th, it'll be again at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And this will be an open session for you to bring any of your questions or comments or anything about cataloging, be it in Library.Solution or cataloging in general, to bring to Kim to myself or for the catalogers at large. So we look forward to meeting you and seeing you all then and hearing your questions. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.